Last week, all eyes were on the Fed in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It all culminated on Friday when Chairman Powell spoke, and we will say we were reminded that what he says matters and it can move markets. We saw a big change from what we were seeing midweek in the market until end of the week, and a huge divergence from what we have seen over the last several years in what is moving equity markets. There was so much going on, and we are also going to talk through one of our core values today. So make sure you stay till the end on that, as we're going to talk through how we value wisdom at John Moore Associates. Welcome to the Wealth and Wisdom Podcast, where intentional planning meets eternal perspective. Today is Monday, August 25th, 2025. I'm joined by Brian Cochran. We are part of John Moore Associates, a financial planning firm serving successful and generous families across the country. Each week, we will unpack current economic events, market trends, and real-life planning considerations, all through the lens of biblical wisdom and eternal stewardship to help you grow, give, and live with purpose. Brian, help us understand what happened last week in Jackson Hole.
As you said earlier, it was an interesting week because it seemed like every day the market was just taking a slow march downward. I think we had 5 or 6 consecutive down days in the S&P. And then Friday, I was on a call. I think you were on a call that same morning, and I hang up from my Zoom meeting, and boom, the market's up, 900 points on the Dow or something like that. It's just this crazy rebound, and it's just a good reminder in these periods where the Federal Reserve really seems to drive the markets. Every announcement matters. It reminds me back in 2018 where we had basically a 20% market correction just based on a 1/4% move in the Fed funds rate. The Fed matters, and a lot of people don't realize. They think about the president and Congress, and they're driving markets with economic legislation and executive orders, but really the Federal Reserve matters more than the fiscal side of the house. So we were reminded of that on Friday, but it was a good way to end the week, a positive tone. And as you said, probably the most interesting part from our point of view was that it wasn't just the big tech names that have been driving the market for years. We saw a huge resurgence in the more small and mid-cap stocks. And I think you said you just had a conversation last week about just that topic, right?
I sure did. Yeah, we were having a conversation around one of our equity models, which has a leaning towards mid caps and even some small caps at times. We don't own the Mag 7 in there, and there were some questions around performance. And I think while I was having the conversation, there was that big rally in the mid cap space, particularly. What was interesting last week is that the S&P 500 was up 1.5% on Friday. And we had consumer discretionary leading the way. That was up 3.2%. Energy was up 2%. Tech was up 1.3%. But really what was driving the market rally was the other 90% of the stock market, whereas the top 10 has really been driving performance for the better part of the last couple of years. But there was a really positive reaction on the stock side of things from these small and mid-cap names. And while we were looking at that, we were also seeing that the market is now pricing in a rate cut at 90% probability of a rate cut in September. Equity market volatility is very, very low, which is generally a good sign for the near-term trading of the stock market, though nothing is bulletproof, nothing's perfect. But the rally was pretty substantial, and the turnaround was very quick as everybody was just kind of a little nervous as to what Chairman Powell was going to say. Really, this is something that we have to keep an eye on regularly, and we have to make sure that we're not getting too short-sighted because the market can move really quickly, and we're showing that, we're seeing that on a weekly basis in different parts of the market, whether it be, we keep an eye on the cryptocurrency market, we keep an eye on precious metals, we keep an eye on, of course, stocks and bonds, but those trends are moving really rapidly because trading volume is so high. Options market volatility is really high. We've seen this rise in things called 0 days to expiration options, which are about as close to gambling on the stock market as you can possibly get. And last week, we saw the highest volume in the history of the S&P 500 on 0 day to expiration options on Friday, which of course was the day that Chairman Powell spoke. So there were more people placing bets on the closing price of the market that day than ever in the history of the stock market. A really tremendous thing to point out and be aware of, that there is some level of speculation on the market, which can move it on those short-term intervals on a day-to-day basis or a week-to-week basis, but the long-term trend is what we're really keeping an eye on. And as it stands today, we're a little over 9% above trend. Again, not a bubble, and that's our estimation of trend over a set time period, which goes back many decades. We like to focus on our core values here at JMA, and one of those is wisdom. Can you talk about how we define wisdom and then how we pursue wisdom?
Yeah, great question. So we really have 4 core values here, as you mentioned, and wisdom is one of the most essential. And we really look at wisdom 2 ways. We look at sort of the knowledge side and wisdom. We kind of blend those together into that one word of wisdom. But we think of wisdom as being timeless and transcendent principles. We draw those from the Bible. And the nice thing there is they don't change. So we can train our advisors to those timeless principles, knowing that they will be true throughout that advisor's career, and we can teach them to clients knowing that they'll be true for generations. But then we have the knowledge side, which is the practical application of how do we do what we do as advisors, and that takes some special experience and training. And we're happy to announce that along those lines, one of our assistant financial advisors, Kaylee Judge, just completed her certified financial planning designation requirement. So she is now a certified financial planner practitioner. That's a rigorous process. You've been through it, I've been through it. We ask all of our financial planners to earn the CFP designation, which is quite an undertaking. Usually it's about a year and a half to 2-year process. There's all kinds of topics you've got to cover, including income tax, retirement planning, estate planning, basic cash flow, insurance. Basically all aspects of personal finance are covered in that curriculum. So you get a lot of very big, thick books that you've got to take home, and you do a ton of practice tests. And Kaylee was able to pass that comprehensive exam and meet all the other experience requirements and such. So that's one of the many designations we hold here. So it's something we invest in. So as a firm, we pay for that for our team members as a way to encourage them and show our support of what they're doing, which is not always the case in our industry. But we have that CFP designation across several team members. We also use the Certified Kingdom Advisor designation. That goes back to that wisdom side, the timeless and transcendent principles. So the CKA, I think it's really wise the way they put it together, is you have to have one of the traditional designations, such as a CFP, to then move forward and get the CKA. So that'll be the next step for Kaylee. And then we have Bethany Miller, our other assistant advisor, is getting close to her CFP exam, and then she'll jump into the CKA when she's ready. It's really fun to see the team step up and grow their education, their knowledge in the business. So that, paired with the awesome experience they get serving the families that we walk alongside, is just a great way to build top-notch financial planners.
Well, and the letters don't mean everything. The credential doesn't mean you actually know what you're doing. It's a combination of the education, the credential, and the experience and the group that you're working with. And we really say that it's kind of table stakes to be a CFP, to really sit across, in our mind, as a trusted advisor, as a financial advisor, a financial planner, which is why, Brian, you've been really intentional about making sure that in order to fulfill that lead planner, that financial planner role, that title with people, the CFP has become something that you have to have. And because of our values, the CKA is something that you have to have in order to sit in that seat across clients. Do you want to talk about any of the other kind of more specialized designations that the rest of the team has or may be pursuing?
Yeah, so because our different team members serve different roles, they're not all sitting across the table from families as financial planners. We ask them to pursue roles and designations, particular targeted towards their skill set and their role. So for example, Matthew Miller, our investment operations manager, he's working on the CFA, Chartered Financial Analyst designation. Very rigorous curriculum, 3 stages. Each stage is very tough and could take well over a year to accomplish and complete. So he's really putting in extra time on that. It's been really fun to see him hitting the books and learning a lot through it that applies to our process. So that's a great one. We also have the AAMS designation, which is one that we often encourage our support staff and our client service staff to pursue. I know Greg Hartenbauer holds that designation. We've had some of our younger team members pick that one up on their way to the CFP. It's sort of a smaller version of the CFP, a lot of the similar topics. So that's another good one. What am I missing, Cole? There's a long list. It's kind of an
Yeah.
alphabet soup.
Yeah, we do. Our team slide is a little bit comical at times. Greg's also got the CRPC, the Certified Retirement Plan Consultant, specializing in kind of the retirement plan space, the 401ks, the 403bs. That's a really good one. We've got the Chartered Advisor in Philanthropy. I know Andy Ferguson is working on that. That is specifically on charitable giving strategies. I recently picked up the CPWA, the Certified Private Wealth Advisor, and the way I kind of simplify that is the CFP for the high net worth and ultra high net worth space, some more advanced planning strategies that helps me and Brian serve some of our higher net worth families in a more comprehensive way. So we've got a lot going on our team, and it's something that is encouraged, and we put our money where our mouth is. Brian and the team pays for any of these certifications to continue to grow our competency and our capacity to serve clients better and better, as we really do look at our job as we're trying to be excellent in all things, to work as though we work unto the Lord, and that is something that we really take seriously here.
Yeah, and it's a joy. And as a leader of the firm, I love watching the team members grind through the studying and then completing the designations, something we can all celebrate as a team together, and then watching them apply that. I know with that CPWA that you completed, you enjoyed the curriculum. It was hard work. You made the time for it. But now I've seen it show up in client conversations that you have this higher level of knowledge of strategies and tools available to those high net worth clients. And it's just been a lot of fun. So something we'll keep pouring into, pouring resources in behind those team members, encouraging them. And every time we bring someone new on, it's just fun to get them back on that same sort of education path to become a great financial planner or whatever role. And the other neat thing about all these designations, they all come with a great community behind them and then continuing education requirements. So it's not that you just complete these exams, get your letters behind your name and move on. You have now a network of other professionals you can coordinate with and associate with, and then also the continuing education requirements mean that you're sort of required and inspired to keep learning. And this industry is always changing, so that's crucial.
Yeah. So I think that wraps it up for today. Thanks so much for joining us on the Wealth and Wisdom podcast, where intentional planning meets eternal perspective. If you found today's conversation helpful, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, and share it with someone who would benefit from this. For other resources and timely insights, please visit our insights page at johnmoore.com, where we regularly share blog posts, articles, videos, and other tools to help you steward wisely. We look forward to seeing you all next week.